Good evening, my friends. Close your eyes for just a moment. I want you to feel something. Right now, in this very second, there is a version of you living the life you have been imagining. That version is not hoping. That version is not wishing. That version is not waiting for permission from the universe or from God or from anyone else. That version of you is simply living it, breathing it, being it. And here is what I need you to understand tonight. That version of you is not in the future. It is not somewhere out there waiting for you to arrive. It exists right now, in this present moment, in a dimension of consciousness that is just as real as the chair you are sitting in. The only thing separating you from that version is not time. It is not effort. It is not worthiness. It is a choice. A single decision to stop living from the person you think you are and to start living from the person you know you are meant to be. Most people spend their entire lives begging reality to change. They wake up every morning and look at their circumstances and say, "This is who I am. This is what I have. This is what is possible for me." And then they spend the rest of the day reacting to that story, reinforcing it, feeding it, keeping it alive. But you and I, we are going to do something different tonight. We are going to step into the other version, the one that already has it, the one that already is it. Before we go any further, I want to invite you to do something. Take a moment right now and leave a comment below. It doesn't have to be long, just a word, a thought, something that resonates with what you are feeling in this moment. When you engage, when you participate, you are signaling to yourself that you are ready, that you are not just a passive listener, but an active creator. So go ahead, leave that comment. I will be here when you return. And while you are at it, if you have not already, subscribe to this channel. Because what we are building here is not just a collection of videos. It is a community of those who understand that reality is not fixed, that consciousness is the only true power, and that you and I are far more powerful than we have been taught to believe. Now let me tell you something that most teachers will not say out loud. You have been lied to, not maliciously, perhaps not intentionally, but you have been taught a story about manifestation that keeps you in a loop of trying, striving, hoping, waiting. You have been told that if you affirm enough, visualize enough, believe hard enough, one day the universe will reward you. One day your desire will arrive. But that is not how the law works. That is not how consciousness operates. And as long as you are waiting for something to happen, you are living from the wrong end. Let me say that again because this is the reframe that changes everything. As long as you are waiting for something to happen, you are living from the wrong end. The law does not respond to your hoping. It responds to your being. It does not care how much you want something. It cares about who you are being in this moment. Are you being the person who has it, or are you being the person who is still trying to get it? That is the only question that matters. Here is the truth that no one wants to hear. You have been manifesting perfectly your entire life. Every single experience you have ever had, every relationship, every bank account balance, every success, every failure, all of it has been a perfect reflection of the state you have been living in, not the state you wanted to live in, not the state you hoped to live in, the state you actually occupied. And most of the time, you did not even know you were occupying it. You inherited it. You absorbed it from your parents, your culture, your past experiences, and then you wore it like a coat you forgot you were wearing. And the world, being the perfect mirror that it is, reflected it back to you and said, "Yes, this is who you are. But tonight, we take the coat off. Tonight, we step into a different version. Not because we have earned it, not because we have done enough affirmations or meditations or vision boards, but because we choose it. because we decide that the version of us who already has what we want is more real than the version we have been pretending to be. Let me tell you about a woman who came to me 2 years ago. She had been studying the law for 7 years. 7 years. She had read every book, listened to every teacher, done every technique, and yet nothing in her life had changed. She was still broke, still lonely, still stuck in the same apartment, the same job, the same whine of disappointment. When she sat across from me, I could see it in her eyes. She was exhausted, not from lack of effort. She had been newly harder than most people ever do. She was exhausted from trying to become someone she thought she needed to be in order to deserve her desire. I asked her one question. Who are you being right now? She looked at me, confused. I said it again. Not who do you want to be? Not who are you trying to be? Who are you being? In this moment, as you sit here telling me about your desire. And she said, I am being someone who does not have it. Someone who is waiting for it. Someone who is hoping that one day, if I do everything right, it will finally come. And that, my friends, was the problem. She was living from the wrong end. She was being the person before the desire, not the person after. And the law, which is impersonal and absolutely precise, kept giving her more experiences of being the person before. More waiting, more hoping, more trying, because that was the state she was occupying. I gave her one instruction. For the next 30 days, I want you to stop trying to get anything. Stop affirming for it. Stop visualizing it. Stop doing anything to make it happen. Instead, I want you to spend every moment of every day being the version of you who already has it, not feeling excited about having it, not feeling grateful that it is coming, but feeling natural, feeling normal, feeling like this is just who you are now. She looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. How do I do that? She asked. When my bank account says something different, when my life looks nothing like what I want. And I said, you do it by realizing that your bank account is not creating your state. Your state is creating your bank account. The outer world is not the cause. It is the effect. And if you keep reacting to the effect, you will keep recreating the same cause. She left that day not entirely convinced, but something in her had shifted. She stopped doing her morning affirmations. She stopped visualizing. She stopped trying to feel abundant. Instead, she just started being abundant. She walked into the grocery store and did not check prices. Not because she was pretending to have money, but because in her mind, in her state, she was the woman who did not need to check prices. She made decisions from that version. She spoke from that version. She moved through the world as that version, and within 3 weeks, she received a job offer she had not applied for. Within 2 months, she had moved into a new apartment that cost twice as much as her old one, but somehow felt easier to afford. Within 6 months, her entire life looked unrecognizable. Not because she had worked harder, but because she had stopped being the old version and started being the new one. That is what I mean by living from the end. It is not a technique. It is not something you do for 10 minutes in the morning and then forget about. It is a state you occupy 24 hours a day. And the moment you truly occupy it, the moment you stop being the person who wants and start being the person who has, reality has no choice but to conform. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I have tried that. I have acted as if, I have pretended, and nothing changed. And I am going to tell you why. Because you were still pretending. You were still acting. You were still performing a role, waiting for the audience to applaud. But the law does not respond to performance. It responds to assumption. There is a difference. When you act as if, you are still aware that you do not have it. You are playing a part, hoping that if you play it well enough, The universe will give you what you want. But when you assume, you are not playing anything. You are not aware of lack. You are simply being the person who has it because in your consciousness, you do have it. The outer world has not caught up yet. But that does not concern you. Because you know that the outer world is always catching up. It is always lagging behind consciousness. It has no choice. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are an actor. You are cast to play a billionaire in a movie. On set, you walk into a mansion. You drive a luxury car. You make decisions that billionaires make. While you are in that role, while the cameras are rolling, you are not thinking, I am pretending to be rich. You are simply being the character. You are thinking the thoughts that character thinks. You are feeling what that character feels. You are moving through the world as that character. Now, here is the key. In that moment, on that set, you are not a poor actor pretending to be a billionaire. You are the billionaire. The only reality that exists in that moment is the one you are occupying, the one you are being. That is what I am asking you to do with your life. Not to pretend, but to be, to occupy the state of the wish fulfilled so completely that there is no gap between who you are and who you want to be. And when you do that, when you close that gap, the outer world must rearrange itself to match. Now, some of you are still stuck on the how. How do I pay my rent if I am being abundant, but my bank account is empty? How do I act confident if I have been rejected 100 times? How do I live from the end when the present moment is screaming something different at me? And here is what I want you to understand. The how is not your job. Your job is the state. Your job is the assumption. The how will take care of itself because the how is part of the effect, not the cause. You do not need to know how it will happen. You only need to know that it is already done. In consciousness, it is already complete. The rest is just time. And time is an illusion anyway. Let me tell you something about time. Time is not linear. It is not a river flowing in one direction. Time is a construct of the mind, a way of organizing experience. But in consciousness, in the realm where all things already exist, there is no time. There is only now. And in this now, every version of you exists simultaneously. The version who is struggling, the version who is thriving, the version who is still waiting, the version who has already arrived. They are all here, right now, in this moment, and the version you experience, the version you live as, is simply the one you are tuned into, the one you are giving your attention to, the one you are being. So when I say live from the end, I am not asking you to imagine a future event. I am asking you to tune into the version of you that already has what you want, to feel into that version, to think from that version, to move from that version. And the more you do, the more your outer reality will shift to reflect it. Not because you are creating something new, but because you are aligning with what already is. There is a concept in the teachings that I want to clarify because it is often misunderstood. The concept of the wish fulfilled. People hear that phrase and they think it means feeling excited, feeling happy, feeling like something amazing just happened. But that is not what it means. The wish fulfilled does not feel exciting. It feels natural. It feels normal. It feels like nothing special happened because in your world, in your state, nothing special did happen. You simply have what you have always had. Think about it. If you woke up tomorrow and you still had your name, would you be excited? Would you jump out of bed and say, "Oh my goodness, I still have my name"? No, because your name is a given. It is natural. It is just who you are. That is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is not exhilaration. It is calm certainty. It is the quiet knowing that this is just how things are now. And that is where most people go wrong. They try to manufacture excitement. because they think excitement is proof that they are manifesting. But excitement is often proof that you still see your desire as separate from you, as something outside of you that you are trying to bring in. True manifestation, true assumption, feels like nothing because there is nothing to get. You already are it. I want you to think about something you already have in your life, something you take completely for granted. Maybe it is your ability to walk. Maybe it is the roof over your head. Maybe it is the friend you have had for 20 years. Now, do you spend your days affirming that you have that thing? Do you visualize it every morning? Do you feel grateful for it every second of every day? No, you do not, because it is a given. It is natural. It is just part of your reality. That is the state you want to cultivate for your desire. Not excitement, not gratitude, just naturalness, just the quiet, settled knowing that this is yours. Now, I am going to give you a practice, but I need you to understand something before I do. This is not a technique to get something. This is not a method to make something happen. This is a training to help you shift states, to help you move from the version of you who is waiting to the version of you who already has. It is not about doing, it is about being. And the moment you understand that distinction, everything changes. Here is what I want you to do for the next 7 days. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you look at your circumstances, before you let the world tell you who you are, I want you to ask yourself one question. Who am I being today? Not who do I want to be? Not who am I trying to be? Who am I being? And then I want you to decide. I am being the version of me who already has my desire, not the version who is working toward it, not the version who is hoping for it, the version who has it. And then, for the rest of the day, I want you to move through the world as that version. Make decisions from that version. Speak from that version. Think from that version. Now, here is what is going to happen. Your mind is going to resist. Your circumstances are going to contradict. The world is going to try to pull you back into the old state. That is normal. That is expected. But every time you notice yourself slipping back into the person who does not have it, I want you to gently, without judgment, without frustration, return to the person who does. You do not need to fight the old state. You do not need to push it away. You simply need to choose the new one, again and again and again. And after 7 days, if you do this with sincerity, if you do this with commitment, you will notice something. The new state will start to feel more natural than the old one. It will start to feel like home. And when that happens, when the new state becomes your dominant state, your reality will have no choice but to shift. On day 3, you are going to notice something interesting. You are going to start making different choices, not because you are forcing yourself to, but because the version of you who has what you want makes different choices. That version does not hesitate. That version does not second guess. That version does not wait for permission. That version simply moves. And as you move from that version, as you take action from that state, the world will begin to respond differently. Opportunities that were invisible before will become visible. People will show up at exactly the right time. Doors that were closed will open. Not because you are lucky, but because you have shifted states. And the world, being the mirror that it is reflecting your new state back to you. By day 7, something profound will have happened. You will look at your desire and it will not feel urgent anymore. It will not feel like something you need. It will feel like something you already are. And that, my friends, is when you know you have crossed over. That is when you know you are living from the end, not from the place of wanting, but from the place of having, not from the place of becoming, but from the place of being. Let me tell you about another student, a man who had been trying to manifest a relationship for 3 years. He had done everything. He had visualized the perfect partner. He had written lists of qualities he wanted. He had gone on dates, joined apps, put himself out there. And yet, every relationship ended the same way. Distance, disconnection, disappointment. When he came to me, he was frustrated. He said, I am doing everything right. Why is this not working? And I asked him the same question I ask everyone. Who are you being? He said, I am being someone who wants a relationship. And I said, that is the problem. You are being someone who wants, and as long as you are being someone who wants, you will keep experiencing the state of wanting. The law does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are. I told him, for the next 30 days, I want you to stop looking for a relationship. Stop going on dates. Stop swiping. Stop searching. And instead, I want you to be the man who is already in the relationship you desire, not excited about it, not hoping for it, just living as that man. Think the thoughts that man thinks, feel what that man feels, make decisions from that version of yourself. He was skeptical, but he agreed. And for 30 days, he stopped searching. He stopped trying. Instead, he just lived. He made dinner for two even though he was alone. Not as a manifestation technique, but because that is what the man in the relationship would do. He made space in his closet, not to attract someone, but because in his state, someone was already there. He stopped checking his phone every 5 minutes, not because he was forcing himself to detach, but because the man who was already in love did not need to check his phone every 5 minutes. He was at peace. And here is what happened. 3 weeks in, he ran into an old friend, someone he had known for years but had never seen in that way. They started talking, and something clicked, not because he was trying to make it click, but because he was in a different state. He was no longer the man who was desperate. He was the man who was already whole. And from that place of wholeness, from that state of already having, the relationship unfolded naturally. Within 2 months, they were together. And when I asked him what had changed, he said, I stopped trying to get her. I just became the man who already had the love I wanted. And then she appeared. That is the power of state. That is the power of living from the end. You do not chase your desire. You become the person who already has it. And then your desire finds you. Now, I want to address something that I know is on many of your minds. What about the waiting period? What about the gap between when I assume the state and when I see the evidence? What do I do in that space? And here's what I want you to understand. The gap is a test, not a test from the universe, a test of your own conviction. The gap is where most people fail because the gap is where doubt creeps in. The gap is where the old state tries to reclaim you. The gap is where the world whispers, see, it is not working. You were fooling yourself. But the gap is also where the magic happens. Because the gap is where you prove to yourself, to consciousness, to the law, that you are serious, that you are not just playing with ideas, that you have truly chosen a new state and you are not going back. Here is how you navigate the gap. You do not look for evidence. You do not measure progress. You do not check to see if it is working. You simply stay in the state. You live from the end. You be the person who already has it. And you trust that the outer world is rearranging itself even when you cannot see it yet. Think of it like this. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not dig it up every day to check if it is growing. You do not stand over it and say, why is there no tree yet? I planted this seed 3 days ago. No, you water it. You give it sunlight. You trust the process. And one day, without you even noticing, a sprout appears, and then a stem, and then leaves, and then, in time, A full tree. The seed was working the entire time. You just could not see it. Your desire is the same. The moment you assume the state, the moment you become the person who has it, the seed is planted, and now it is growing. Beneath the surface, where you cannot see, circumstances are shifting, people are moving, events are aligning. The entire universe is rearranging itself to match your assumption. But you will not see the evidence immediately. There is a gap, and in that gap, your only job is to stay in the state, to water the seed, to trust the process, and to refuse to dig it up to check if it is working. I had a student once who understood this perfectly. She wanted to move to a new city. She had no money. She had no job lined up. She had no logical reason to believe it was possible. But she decided, in consciousness, that she was already living in that city. She did not know how it would happen. She did not try to figure it out. She simply assumed the state of the woman who lived there. She researched neighborhoods as if she were choosing where to rent. She followed local accounts on social media. She even started saying, "When I get home tonight," referring to the new city, not the one she was currently in. To anyone listening, it would have sounded delusional. But to her, it was natural. Because in her state, she was already there. 3 months passed. Nothing changed. 6 months. Still nothing. But she did not waver. She did not panic. She did not go back to the old state of "I am stuck here." She simply stayed in the state of "I already live there." And then, out of nowhere, she received a phone call. A company in that city, a company she had never applied to, wanted to interview her. Someone had referred her. She did not even know who. The interview went well. They offered her the job. They offered to pay for her relocation. And within 4 weeks, she was living in the city she had assumed herself into. Not because she had forced it. Not because she had hustled. But because she had stayed in the state. She had lived from the end and the outer world, as it always does. Conformed. That is what I mean when I say the law is impersonal. It does not care if you are worthy. It does not care if you deserve it. It does not care if you have a logical plan. It only cares about one thing. What state are you occupying? Who are you being? And then it reflects that back to you with absolute precision. So if you are in the gap right now, if you have assumed your desire but you are not seeing the evidence yet, do not panic. Do not doubt. Do not go back. The seed is growing. The world is shifting. Your job is to stay in the state, to be the person who already has it, to live from the end, and to trust that what is yours in consciousness must, by law, become yours in experience. Now, here is something that might surprise you. The biggest block to manifestation is not doubt. It is not fear. It is not lack of belief. The biggest block is the divided mind. Let me explain what I mean. Most people walk around with two voices in their head. One voice says, "I have my desire. I am living my dream. I am the person I want to be." And the other voice says, "But look at your bank account. But look at your circumstances. But remember what happened last time." And they spend their entire day switching between these two voices. 5 minutes in the state of having, 10 minutes in the state of lacking. Back and forth, back and forth. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Here is what you need to understand. The law does not respond to your occasional state. It responds to your dominant state. It responds to the state you occupy most consistently. If you spend 5 minutes a day in the state of having and 23 hours and 55 minutes in the state of lacking, the law will give you more lack, not because it is punishing you, but because that is the state you are predominantly occupying. That is the signal you are predominantly sending. So the work is not to have a perfect day where you never doubt. The work is to catch yourself when you slip into the old state and gently return to the new one. over and over and over, until the new state becomes more familiar than the old one, until the new state becomes your dominant state. And when that happens, when you are spending more time being the person who has than being the person who wants, reality will shift. It has no choice. I want to give you a tool for this. It is something I call the 30-second rule. Every time you notice yourself in the old state, every time you catch yourself thinking from lack, feeling from lack, speaking from lack, you have 30 seconds to shift, not 30 minutes, not next week, 30 seconds. In that moment, you pause, you take a breath, and you ask yourself, who am I being right now? And if the answer is the old version, you simply choose the new one. You think one thought from the new state. You feel one feeling from the new state. You make one decision from the new state. And then you move on. That is it. 30 seconds. And here is what will happen. At first, you will need to do this 100 times a day. Because the old state is a habit. It is familiar. It is comfortable. And your mind will keep defaulting to it. But every time you catch it, every time you shift, you are weakening the old state and strengthening the new one. And after a few days, you will notice you only need to shift 50 times, then 20, then 10. And eventually, the new state will become so natural that you will not need to shift at all. You will just be the new version. And when you are just being it, when there is no more back and forth, when there is no more divided mind, the outer world will catch up in ways that will leave you in awe. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine waking up one morning and the thing you have been imagining, the thing you have been assuming, the thing you have been being, is just there. Not because you hustled for it, not because you figured out the perfect strategy, but because you became the person who has it. And once you became that person, reality had no choice but to reflect it. That is the life I am inviting you into. Not a life of trying, not a life of hoping, but a life of being. A life where you understand that you are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the creator of them. You are not waiting for the world to change. You are the one changing the world by changing who you are being. And when you live from that place, when you truly embody that understanding, life stops feeling like a struggle. It stops feeling like you are pushing a boulder uphill. It starts feeling like flow, like ease, like everything is conspiring in your favor. Because it is, because the entire universe is designed to reflect consciousness. And when your consciousness is aligned with your desire, when you are being the person who has it, the universe has no choice but to bring it to you. So here is my challenge to you. For the next 7 days, live as though your desire is already fulfilled. Not as a technique, not as a trick, but as a genuine state. Be that person, think from that person, feel from that person, move from that person, and do not check for evidence. Do not measure progress. Do not analyze whether it is working. Just be. And at the end of 7 days, notice what has shifted, not just in your outer world, though I promise you will see changes there. But notice what has shifted in you. Notice how much more natural it feels to be the new version. Notice how the old state no longer has the same pull. And then keep going. Because this is not a 7-day experiment. This is a way of life. You are not someone who needs to become something. You are someone who gets to choose which version of yourself you are going to be. And the version you choose, the version you occupy, the version you live from, that is the version the world will reflect back to you. Always, without exception, because that is the law. Walk out of here tonight knowing that your desire is not in the future. It is in you, right now, in this moment, and all you have to do is be the version of you who has it. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change. Now, be it now, and watch as the world rearranges itself to match. Until we meet again in consciousness, assume your greatness. Assume your desire fulfilled. Assume that you are already the person you have been longing to become. Because you are, you always have been. You were just looking in the wrong direction. Now turn inward. Step into the other version. And live from the end. It is done. It has always been done. You just needed to remember. The lesson we take from this teaching is simple yet profound. You are not waiting for your life to change. You are not at the mercy of time, circumstance, or chance. You are the operant power in your reality. The moment you shift states, the moment you stop being the person who wants and start being the person who has, everything changes. Not because you did more, but because you became more. The outer world is only ever a reflection of the inner world. And when you change within, the without must follow. This is not philosophy. This is law. And you, my friend, are the one who decides which law you will live by. The law of circumstance or the law of consciousness. Choose consciousness. Choose the state of the wish fulfilled. And live from that place. Every day. Every moment. Until it is no longer something you do, but simply who you are.